Good evening and welcome to tonight's public hearing. This hearing will include Columbus City Council's Health and Human Services, Finance, and Workforce Development Committees. I am Councilmember Priscilla Tyson, President Pro Tem of City Council and Chair of the committees. Before we begin, please be aware that this hearing is being recorded for rebroadcast on CTV, the Columbus Government Television Channel 3. The rebroadcast schedule is available at www.columbus.gov. This hearing is one in a series of bi-weekly committee hearings that I hold in order to review legislation and the committees that I chair. This includes, again, Health and Human Services, Finance, and Workforce Development Committees. The goal of the hearings is to promote transparency and provide an opportunity for city residents to learn and speak on legislation that impacts their lives. There will be on occasion when a committee is not covered because legislation is not always scheduled for each committee. The intent of each hearing is to review legislation that will be on City Council's agenda for the following 2 weeks. Tonight, we will hear information on legislation in the Finance and Health and Human Services committees. Presenters this evening include Health and Human Services. We have Columbus Public Health, Roger Clorn, the Assistant Health Commissioner. From the Department of Development, Hannah R. Jones, Deputy Director of Community Development. And Ms. Jones will be calling up several guests representing organizations that will receive funding from City Council. From the Finance Committee, we'll have the Treasurer's Office, Deborah Klee, our Treasurer. From the City Auditor's Office, Robert McDaniel, who's our Deputy Auditor. And from the Finance and Management Department, Joe Lombardi, our Director. I will begin with legislation in Health and Human Services Committee and ask Roger Clorn to present legislation from Columbus Public Health. Roger, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Columbus Public Health has 2 pieces of legislation tonight. The first piece is Ordinance 1818-2017. Columbus Public Health has been awarded a grant from Gilead Sciences Incorporated for $323,058 for the period July 1st, 17 through June 30th, 2018. This Focus Hep C grant program will allow CPH to seek to reduce morbidity and mortality associated with this disease. Additional hepatitis C screening will be made available through the sexual health and alcohol and other drug programs at Columbus Public Health, as well as drug rehabilitation sites and community correction centers in the community. Persons who screen positive for hepatitis C through these programs will be referred to a linkage to care specialist. The client will be assessed for current health insurance status and enrolled in any available programs, including Medicare and Medicaid. And the client will be assessed for readiness to be linked to these additional services. This legislation allows us to continue this program for another year. In the first 6 months of the program, so far we have performed over 1,400 tests with 69 confirmed positive hepatitis C cases. And of these confirmed cases, 74% received additional education and 46% completed their first medical appointment.
Thank you, Roger. Are there particular communities or neighborhoods that we know that we want to focus on in ensuring that hepatitis information is provided to those communities?
There's a strong link with hepatitis C for the intravenous drug users. And so our efforts and resources go to the drug rehabilitation sites and the community correction centers. This is where we've seen the highest concentration of users and the greatest connection to getting infected. We've had a 12 to 48% positivity rate and test results for these sites. So we continue to focus on these areas.
Thank you. Certainly know that one of the reasons that we have the harm reduction program with Equitas is, again, to ensure that we know that individuals who are drug users, that certainly want to make sure that trying to make sure that hepatitis C is not given from one person to another by using the same needle. And so that's part of the harm reduction program. And certainly want to say that I'm pleased that we are having these tests done, that individuals who are confirmed to have Hep C can then go ahead and get the treatment that they know that they now have that illness and can also get treatment. And so again, and then as you said, they would also be that treatment by a linkage to care specialists. So again, this is for $323,058 to support the Hep C grant program. Thank you.
Our second piece tonight is Ordinance 1781-2017. The Board of Health seeks to enter into contract with Beyond Spots and Dots to provide professional media and advertising services in target zip codes in the greater Columbus area regarding education on tobacco purchase and use by teenagers and young adults. The contract will be for $30,000 and will be for the period July 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017. And this campaign and this contract is tied to Council's Tobacco 21 law, which prohibits tobacco sales, inclusive of all products and paraphernalia, including hookah, e-cigarettes, pipes, rolling papers, et cetera, to anyone under the age of 21. We're hoping by raising the age for tobacco and other nicotine products and paraphernalia to age 21, we can reduce approximately 90% of new smokers from even starting this habit. This contract will provide media services to reach Columbus residents with additional emphasis in zip codes with higher rates of tobacco retailers and or higher smoking rates, including zip codes 43229, 43201, 207, 215, 204, 228, 211, 223, 219, 206, 224, and 43232.
Roger, thank you for certainly, talking about the Tobacco 21 program. As you know, that was something, an initiative that I certainly was focused on for the last year and working with your colleagues at Columbus Public Health. And I think you've just shared the reasons why we want to make sure that young people are not purchasing cigarettes before the age of 21 because of the health issues that certainly can come from young people begin smoking at an early age. And so I'm excited that we are moving forward with the advertising campaign. And I know that the program will go into effect October the 1st, where individuals under the age of 21 will not be able to purchase tobacco products and nicotine products, as well as the paraphernalia. I think this is great for our community, and just appreciate the opportunity to have worked with Columbus Public Health on this major initiative to move our community forward. And again, this is for $30,000 for the advertising campaign, ensuring that our retailers certainly know that they will not be able to sell cigarettes to young individuals or tobacco products. So thank you very much. Look forward to the passage of this legislation.
Thank you.
And now we will have Hannah Jones presenting on behalf of the Department of Development.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. The first ordinance we have for your consideration this evening is Ordinance 1796-2017. This ordinance is to allocate $5,700 to Voice Corps for the repair of 4 of their HVAC units. Voice Corps is a reading service that has been serving the community of Columbus for 42 years. They serve our community that has difficulty using printed materials due to blindness, visual, or physical impairments. These are just capital improvements that are needed to ensure that their facility is operating as efficiently as possible to serve the residents as well as their staff.
Thank you, Hannah. It's a great organization, and absolutely want to make sure that we can help them with the replacement of their HVAC system.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The second ordinance that we have for you this evening is 1797-2017, and while I'm describing it, I would like to invite Michelle Heritage, who serves as the Executive Director for the Community Shelter Board, to the podium. This ordinance represents an allocation of $585,303 in our emergency shelter grant that we received through the Department of Housing and Urban Development at the federal level, and we then forward to the Community Shelter Board for integration into their programming, and I will let Michelle explain how they utilize the funds.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to see you. I want to talk a little bit about the legislation before you, which is from the Emergency Solutions Grant dollars. It funds two types of homeless programs, and the first is shelter. And with your support, we can provide emergency shelter for 10,000 people this year. And you know, emergency shelters are where we keep people safe while we help them get back on their feet. I like to think of us as a rehousing system, and sometimes we need to shelter people. The other programs that this does support is our rapid rehousing programs for families. These are provided from the Salvation Army, Volunteers of America, and Homeless Families Foundation. And this is where we are linking families with employment resources, job training, support services like behavioral health and medical care, and then housing resources to get them back on their feet. Our goal is to quickly stabilize them within 20 to 26 days, ending their homeless crisis and restabilizing them in housing. The funding also does help us with some short-term financial assistance to help pay security deposit, first month's rent, and some utility payments if necessary. One great thing about these dollars is this investment does help us leverage other public and private funds to the tune of $2.6 million to enhance the programs. Last year, these programs helped serve 10,000 people, making sure that they get off the streets and into shelter safely and then into stable housing. Just want to say your support of these programs are what makes it possible for us to be able to do this work. The City of Columbus is our biggest partner and investor and makes a huge difference for the work that we do. And I did just want to take a second to go off script a bit and to plug the prevention work that's coming with the Family Homelessness Prevention Collaborative. The kinds of things that that collaborative is doing are the very things that will turn that faucet off of all those folks that are having to become homeless. And so the Shelter Board would like to say that we fully support all the prevention work that they're trying to do as well.
Thank you, Michelle, for coming down. I certainly do appreciate the commitment that this community has made, that we certainly don't want anyone to have to be homeless. And as you just said, this program served 10,000 people that came through your doors for various reasons, and I'm just appreciative of the work that is going on in terms of prevention, because we absolutely need to stop whatever's happening here. Looking forward to all this information that's coming out, but certainly to be able to help individuals not be a part of the system. And I also am appreciative of these dollars. If you think about $585,000 being leveraged with $2.6 million is a good investment of our dollars. We wish we didn't have to use them in this way, but again, just appreciate the work that you're doing in terms of in trying to enhance these residents' quality of life in our community. So I appreciate that work. And just one question I'll ask you was that you mentioned, tell me about the success of making sure families are receiving housing within the 20 to 26 days. Can you just talk a little bit about that, please?
One of the things that we really want to make sure about homelessness is, one, we prevent it wherever possible, and if a family does become homeless, we want that to be brief, rare, and one time. And so our goal is to move a family through shelter as quickly as possible. Right now, the length of stay is 26 days, and so that means from the time on average that a family enters shelter, within 26 days, we've got them rehoused and stabilized. Nationally, the average is about 94 days, and so we're really far outstripping that average. Community Shelter Board would like to get that down to 20 days. That's our dream, to get that even lower and still maintain a very high housing ratio.
Thank you. And certainly, I don't, don't be afraid to tout your successes here. I mean, if I hadn't asked the question about the, talking to me about the 20 to 26 days, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, if the national average is 94 days, and we are making sure that individuals are being placed between 20 and 26 days, that's great work. So just really do appreciate that. And I appreciate your leadership, again, on the prevention side, because that's really a concern. And certainly we know that it's a lot of women and a lot of women of color that are coming through your doors. And I know that there's a lot of work going on in regards to this to get a really good understanding as to why this is happening. And because we don't want to see these families being, especially the disparity of those families that are being part of the homeless system. And I know that I see Stephanie Hightower sitting out there. I know there are people who are really working with you on this issue.
Absolutely. The city's a partner, and Stephanie Hightower stepped up with leadership. We do have a very significant overrepresentation, specifically of African American folks in our shelter, that cannot be explained by anything, frankly, except racism. There's something happening that we need to address directly so that we can understand why this is disproportionately impacting African Americans in our community. They're becoming homeless at such a high rate.
Thank you, and I would agree with that. And I think that you also look at that women of color make 62 cents on the dollar, and so you think you make 62 cents on the dollar, and you have something happen that's unforeseen in your life. It's really hard to move forward when you are not making as much money as your counterparts are making, and trying to figure out how to live day to day. So I think there's some real issues here that we have to all as a community work on, because when you begin to see numbers that you're seeing, again, more people of color that happen to be in the shelter, we've got to be able to talk about it and be able to deal with that and come up with some solutions to how we begin to deal with this issue.
Absolutely.
And so I thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your work. And we look forward to having this legislation passed over the next couple of weeks.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank
partnership.
you.
The next ordinance for your consideration this evening is ordinance 1869-2017, and while I am covering it, I would ask Jeff Beal, who serves as the coordinator for the Prevent Family Homelessness Collaborative, to make his way to the podium. As Ms. Heritage mentioned, the Prevent Family Homelessness Collaborative is currently working at looking at prevention strategies. One that they're getting ready to implement is to work with landlords and property managers in a partnership to do a pilot. This ordinance allocates $25,000 towards that effort to the Healthcare Collaborative, who is serving, Healthcare Collaborative of Greater Columbus, my apologies, who is serving as the fiscal agent for the work that the task force is doing. And I'll let Jeff talk about the pilot.
Thank you. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to be here in support of the proposed legislation. My role is the coordinator of the Prevent Family Homelessness Collaborative, which is a multi-stakeholder public-private collaborative. It's led by a group of leaders in the community, which includes the City of Columbus. And we really set out on this journey around system change with one clear goal, and that is to reduce by half the number of families who are homeless in our community. We spent last year in a task force phase in really growing and building awareness around what the issue is and what some of the possible solutions are. We've then shifted into a lot of exploration as we headed into 2017. And we've been focusing in on how can we impact evictions. That feels to be an area where we feel as a collaborative that we can make a real impact. So we're taking a systems approach to this situation we're in, and we're working really hard to align our work with other partners so that we avoid duplication, which is always an ongoing challenge. I'm happy to say that in the space of evictions, the Columbus Women's Commission is focusing in on improving the process in the eviction courts. The Shelter Board has worked on a diversion program as well as the rehousing that they've spoken of. We are working upstream. And so the nature of this pilot focused in on landlords and their property managers is really to reach at-risk families who are still tenants and try to avoid them from being evicted. And so we looked at programmatic work that's been done similarly in Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, California, as well as Seattle, Washington. And we've kind of blended together the best of those programs to bring this pilot to a point where we're out seeking public and private support to launch it in the fall. And we have really, there's lots of things that we'll measure, but the overriding measure is to reduce the number of evictions being filed in Columbus and Franklin County. As you probably know, and others in the chamber know, we have, some say, the highest, if not one of the highest in the state of Ohio, the number of evictions being filed. And recently, the Shelter Board brought in some leading experts around the issue of evictions. And I wanted to share with you something that really drives our work in this preventative space, and that is that evictions are a cause, not just a condition of poverty. And especially for women of color, single head of households, it's often said that evictions is like a prison sentence for those families. It's the tipping point of the erosion of that family. And so we're really driven by how do we go upstream and engage property owners and their managers in being part of the solution. So we're taking this systemic approach of think big, start small, scale up. That's very much a good systems model for building solutions. And so with your support, we're going to go out into the community and start to cobble together a network built around these best practices of property owners and landlords that are willing to engage families as early as possible using some common screening tools, and then surround those families with the supports that are already available in our community. So it's a matter of bringing those supports into a family situation earlier than what happens down in eviction court, which is a system failure. So we want to go upstream and reach families before they get that notice on their door. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
So, so tell me, have you identified like certain zip codes where people are being evicted from? There's certain, I've been to eviction court and I've watched, it just kind of moves just like this for all the individuals going up and in front of the in front of the magistrate and just watching what happens, and certainly seeing some of the landlords and the apartment owners that have their own attorneys in the courtroom and kind of moving that process quickly. So can you just talk to me a little bit about who you are identifying as the either zip codes as well as, are you going to be working with these large property owners that seem to be evicting more people than others, just your strategy around this?
Sure. Yeah, we will definitely be using a data-driven approach. So we've been fortunate to be working with the court, the Franklin County Municipal Court, and have access to a lot of their data. And we've analyzed eviction filings by zip code, so we have kind of a heat map view. And we've also then analyzed where the greatest quantity of those are by property owner. And so that blended with, we don't want to just use that mechanism because we also want to go where we can find community-minded property owners and start where we can have some early success. But there are already some very small landlord efforts underway on the west side, on the south side, clearly the Whitehall and Linden areas, to name four that are potentially obvious places to get started. And so we're going to use data to really drive that process. But what will probably make the final decision is where we can find willing partners. So we'll target those areas, but it's going to come down to the value proposition and finding those property owners that are willing to engage in a change process. But we've got a really strong network of relationships we've built over the last year. and we'll leverage those relationships. We're really fortunate to have a property developer on our executive committee, and leveraging the relationships of the Columbus Apartment Association. So we're going to tap into some of those existing networks of property owners and not be out doing cold calling on our own.
This question I'm going to ask is about, you said there's going to be a change process. Can you just kind of tell me about what that is, please?
Yeah, we actually went out and learned from some responsible property owners that do know which of their tenants are at risk. And it's not easy for them to get involved right now. We have a lot of barriers. You know, what won't work is handing them a phone book and saying, here's 17 agencies that you can call to help a family. So we need to surround them, and what the funding will go to is we're going to put in place a coordinator that is there to really serve those property managers. And then we're going to be out organizing the social services that already exist to make that connection a lot more efficient. And then we've been working with Franklin County Job and Family Services on short-term programs like the PRC program. So how do we make access to available short-term one-time funding also available? So we're blending both access to supportive services with access to short-term financial assistance. And it's kind of a combination of those two things that we want to surround those responsible landlords with that support. It already exists in the community, it's just not well organized in a systemic way.
All right, so I know that this contribution from the city is for $25,000, and certainly with all the information you just shared with me, having a coordinator and short-term funding. So who else is also going to put funds into a program like this?
Yeah, currently the collaborative has support from AEP, Cardinal Health Foundation, Franklin County Board of Commissioners, the Shelter Board, Huntington, Nationwide Foundation, Seymour Institute, the Columbus Foundation, and the United Way of Central Ohio. So we're leveraging both that public and private funding to advance our work.
All right. Well, Jeff, thank you. I know I probably ask a lot of questions, but this is a really important program for an initiative for our city. As you just heard what Michelle just discussed here, and I just want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to prevent people from being evicted, and then and for those who have been evicted, hopefully this program will begin even to help them, if they have an eviction on their record, to find some landlords that will be willing to give people another chance. And I think and it's also key that we are providing the supportive services, having a coordinator to be able to help. And so thank you. I think it will be, I look forward to hearing the results of this pilot. And I'm just hoping for great success, because it certainly is needed in our community.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership.
The next ordinance we have for your consideration this evening is Ordinance 1870-2017, and it continues this conversation of how to support families who are facing eviction. It is a $60,000 allocation, to community mediation services to support their homeless prevention program. The goal of this program is to assist individuals and families who are currently homeless or at imminent risk of becoming homeless in order to help them obtain or maintain stable housing. Specifically, it focuses on tenants who have already received their 3-day notice to vacate, so those who are in an emergency situation when it comes to eviction. They do also offer a 2-hour eviction prevention program for tenants. So as Jeff was saying, the opportunity to help families upstream as well as downstream. Through these services, they serve approximately 700 tenants per year for their mediation services. Tenants have the ability to contact the program by calling 614-228-7191 prior to their eviction hearing so that they can receive mediation services in advance. Or there is also a liaison who is on site at the courthouse as well the day of the hearing. So again, trying to reach the tenant through as many spaces as possible.
Thank you, Hannah, and I'm certainly very well aware of community mediation services. I've watched them in action at the courthouse. And Jeff, can you come back up to the podium for just 1 second? And I'm going to, because I want to make sure there's there's just coordination amongst, everyone that's now kind of stepping into dealing with eviction. And so I absolutely know that community mediation services has been there for quite some time prior to everyone in the community saying this is a real issue. And so, and I know that we had funded them previously in a pretty substantial way, and then we had our new way of doing our competitive funding. But we still have found funds to try to support them. So I just want to make sure that I know they're in the courtroom now. I know that I think legal aid is there doing some work and being supportive. And the work that you're doing, I know you're saying that you want to work with really the property owners, hopefully prior to them being evicted. Will you also be working with like community mediation services, the legal aid? Just want to make sure everyone's kind of working together in this arena. I'm dealing with eviction.
Yes, we have convened now on 2 occasions a number of those agencies that are doing work in this space, and we've created a lot more awareness around niches, who does what really well. I know the Columbus Urban League is here, and they do a lot of work around the financial counseling side. So we're really looking at how do we leverage kind of the best of class, so to speak. And so we're not going to charge off and start up a new mediation service in the community. What we have to do is figure out how to take what we have and help it work better. And that's what we're driven by.
Thank you. And that's why I called you back, because I want to make sure that if we're going to solve this, that everyone's really working together. And I want to say this, that we need to make sure as you're working together that you're also having discussions about what real resources, whether they be financial or others, are needed to really deal with this issue. Because community media, I've been there and I see how quickly this things happen at that eviction, and you're saying for community mediation, well, this person needs to go out there and kind of work out the deal with the landlord, and by the time they walk out the room, someone else is standing back up there, and they're saying you need to go out there and talk to community mediation. I just want to make sure that we're really figuring this out and also being able to provide the resources to these individuals if they get to the courthouse and this is happening, that we have resources to help them. And so hopefully that will be a part of this discussion that you're having with these groups of individuals.
Yeah, to a large degree, we are not seeking authority, but very much as this coordinator of a collaborative approach. I'll keep this brief, but could I share?
Yes.
If you look at this situation we're in and view it kind of in 3 stages of prevention, the actual eviction process, and then what happens when families are evicted. And what we're starting to piece together is really the systems view of that. So what do we do on the preventative side? We now have more activity happening during that eviction process that's better coordinated than it's been before. And then when folks are evicted, things like a diversion program in our community to try to avoid that homeless state, which is the last step in the process. So we're really starting to see those phases starting to fall in place. And I think to your point, we all walk into this realizing that we're going to probably need more resources, but that's why we're doing pilots, to see what works well before we knock on the door and say we know what's going to solve some of these problems.
Thank you very much. Okay, and so for mediation services, this legislation is for $60,000.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank
I know that people are, I'm sorry for asking lots of questions. I'm just trying to make sure everything is connected together, and we're supporting our human service organizations, and they're sharing how they're really changing our community. So thank you.
The next ordinance that we have for your consideration this evening is Ordinance 1871-2017. And while I describe it, I would invite Ms. Stephanie Hightower, who serves as the president and CEO of the Columbus Urban League, as well as two of her staff, Derek Foster, who serves as the program coordinator for Choose to Change, as well as Derek Owens, who serves as one of their career coaches, to the podium. This ordinance is to allocate $70,000 to support the work that the Urban League does for the New Beginnings Work Readiness Initiative, and I will turn it over to Ms. Hightower to discuss the details.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. President Pro Tem Tyson, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I always say that I have the subject matter experts, and I bring them with me, who really are out here doing the work of the Columbus Urban League, and in particular our program New Beginnings. As I've said many times before, it is an honor for me to be in this position to serve as the president and CEO. We are the oldest civil rights organization in Columbus, Ohio. We will be 100 years old next year. And so, unfortunately for us, our work has become even more important today than possibly what it was 100 years ago. And I would like to say, to just sort of underscore the importance of the work that both Michelle and Jeff talked about as it relates to homelessness and the eviction issues that we have in our community. I am so just thankful that you are on the forefront in your leadership in recognizing what is going on in our community, recognizing that it has become an issue that is particularly impacting the African American population at disproportionate numbers. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership here, but also for Michelle and Jeff. I also sit on that collaborative as well. It's so important. This is not the space that we normally are in, but because of the disproportionate numbers of people that are people of color, we are now in this space as well. And so that's why a program like New Beginnings is so important. We do have programs for those individuals who are TANF eligible and 200% below the poverty line, but unfortunately there is a gap of people in our community that still need. They have been either underemployed, unemployed, or they have been impacted by generational poverty. And we don't have enough dollars coming from our human services funders to really keep these people in work readiness training the way they need to be. So I'm going to let Derek talk a little bit about the New Beginnings. He's one of our career coaches. And I also think it's important, some of these same people that will be impacted by these dollars also are people who are transitioning back into our community, and that program is transitions. And so we try to make sure, to your point, to make sure that every dollar we have is leveraged so that we don't have the same people or different people pulling from different pots. Or they can pull from one pot and still get those benefits. So I will turn it over to Mr. Owens, and I need for him to behave.
Good evening, and my instructions are to behave. I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to try. I'm here as a career coach at the Columbus Urban League, and I am one of two. And we do have an opportunity to take these dollars and serve the low income and the underemployed people with no challenge backgrounds. These are people that come through our doors, but because our dollars that exist now won't allow us to serve them, these are the dollars that we need. So our goal is to serve 55 people. Of those 55, we want to place 80%. Of those 80%, our intent is to have 30 people retained with a 90-day retention. These people will go through our work readiness program. These dollars will provide things like work boots, whatever it is that a person needs to knock down the barriers to employment. That's what these dollars will be for. Hopefully that this will come to our doors and we can continue to serve as we have in the past.
Can you tell me about the success of the people you've been working with previously from this group?
We have, I heard you earlier mention, don't be afraid to tout or toot your own horn. We have been extremely successful, especially with those that have challenged backgrounds. So we have been, I don't have a matrix in front of me, but we are 100% or better in every category, which is placement, participation, and retention. We are doing very well. So I'm confident if we can do that with people who have challenged backgrounds than people without challenged backgrounds, we can be as successful.
You want to tell her about one of your latest stories that you shared with me, that you got, somebody got employed?
I have so many.
One of the
I'm trying to behave. So we do have so many different stories where people come to us, and it's good to see that people who have challenged backgrounds have been able to go and find employment. And we serve, I mean, when I say the tough to serve, I mean the tough to serve. And there was a gentleman that was spent 23 years in incarceration. And Saturday, I had the opportunity of going to visit him at work. And it was extremely rewarding because he made mention of the fact that he remembered being in my brother's closet and having a chance to have somebody make him feel good again. So he was suited. He had a chance to go through the program with Derek Foster to Choose to Change, and now he's employed. And that's my reward. Permanent. That's permanent employment, not temporary employment, permanent employment.
Again, like he said, I'm just I'm one of the ones who does the guys with the challenge background. So in collaboration with the New Beginnings, what we do is, we try to help, we try to collaborate together. We help the guys with the challenge backgrounds and also the people who actually don't have challenge backgrounds. So we work together, actually give them that cognitive behavior piece also as well. So basically when guys aren't, sometimes they may not be work ready or not mentally ready. So we try to do that together. And basically that's kind of what we do as a whole. We work together as far as our African American Male Initiative and our Work Readiness Department. So we think it's, you need to combine those together to be successful, and that's just kind of what we do. Actually, and I've seen you before last year with the Choose to Change program. We're still successful with that. And just like he said, the guy who he just was hired permanently, he came through the Choose to Change program as well. So Choose to Change with the work readiness piece tied together. They've been down 23 years. And Mr. Owens just came up and said he had good news last week and told me that, hey, they just hired him on permanent. So I think it's successful, and I think we can continue to be successful as long as we continue to keep the money flowing in.
Move away from
Thank you, Ms. Hightower, for certainly coming down and Derek sharing some of your success stories and what you're going to do. It really is important when you think about, and why to support a program like this, because when you think about the unemployment in our community is about 4%. And so, but we know in some of our communities you have double-digit unemployment. And if we're going to continue to be a city that is going to attract and retain individuals to be able to attract and retain businesses in our community, we need to make sure that every able-bodied person has an opportunity to be able to work. And of course, that's the number one way that we get dollars into our city is through our income tax. So we want individuals who want to work. And a program like this is important in terms of providing them the opportunity to be a part of your program, to get the skills that they need to be gainfully employed. And the other reason why this is important is because when people are working, they have the opportunity to change their lives, not only their lives, but their families' lives. And we want, again, everyone to be able to live their best life and have the best quality of life. And the work that you're doing certainly does support that. So I thank you. This legislation is for $70,000, and really do look forward to it being on the floor. To my other colleagues to vote on this. I think it's on Monday, I believe. So if not Monday, it's the next Monday, but it's coming up before we have our break. So,
Thank you. And if I could, President Pro Tem Tyson, just really share how all of this is interconnected. So, in the passion that we have at the Columbus Urban League. So, a week ago, without going into the full story, this gentleman here, who's a job coach, met a waitress and her 3 kids. She was homeless. Her kids were out in the car while she was serving dinner. And he came to my house at 10:30 at night to tell me, what are we going to do? So the next morning, after we got her situated as best we could with her 3 kids, 14, 3, and 4, in a car at 90-degree heat while she's working. so that she could come in the next day, so that he could find her some other employment, and then for us to try to navigate a system. I spent all day trying to navigate, and what I really learned was how hard our system is to navigate. If I have the people I can call and I can't navigate it, you can imagine what someone who doesn't have the resources has to do to navigate in this homeless system. So, but we know people want to work, and this woman was, even though we told her you cannot leave your kids in the car, she said, I gotta go to work every day. So our job was to try to find her a better job so that she can get the daycare and put her teenager in some kind of summer program so she doesn't have to leave them in a car.
Well, again, I thank you for sharing that story, and we certainly don't want our system, especially our homeless system, because this person obviously is homeless living in their car, to be, especially if we can get them into the shelter. See, I tell people, if when you're struggling like that, and if you're living in a car, or you're couch surfing, if you can't find someone who's going to take you in and kind of move you forward, it is to figure out how to get into the system, that shelter system, because if you just heard Michelle say, between 20 and 26 days, they're going to get you into some stable housing. And hopefully you can continue to have your job, and you can or get a better job and move forward. But we need to make it as easy as possible for people to have access. If they need to get into the shelter, if that's where they want to go, how do we make that happen? If there's other avenues to try to figure out so they don't have to go to the shelter, but where else can we get this person housed until we can figure out what's best for them? And luckily you have the resources to make phone calls, to ask people what to do. But if you're out here and with very little resources and kids, we've got to make the system easier.
That's right.
No matter what. And maybe it's easy for some people, but we've got to make sure that, how do we know to call 211, or what number do you call if you're living in your car?
Right. Absolutely.
But I'm glad you were there to help take care of that and move this family forward. And that's what I think people have to just realize, that the social service and human service agencies, you're always navigating, trying to navigate people to where they need to be. And I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next ordinance for your consideration this evening is 1925-2017. And while I describe it, I'd like to invite up Steve Vota, who serves as the president of the Columbus Furniture Bank. This ordinance is to allocate $10,000 to the Furniture Bank in support. See, now I'm not paying. It's your family program. Where did it go? Is in support of their Furniture for Families program, right, Steve? That's right. Man, where is my brain going? I am so sorry, President Pro Tem Tyson. And I will turn it over to Steve, who actually knows the program and can describe how the funding will support it.
All right, well, thank you, Hannah.
Good afternoon, Steve.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Councilmember Tyson, for having me here today. We really want to thank you for this opportunity to share the work of the Furniture Bank. Our mission is to provide furniture that reduces the impact of poverty on Central Ohio families and individuals struggling with severe life challenges. On average, we serve 3,900 families every year, which equals over 10,000 people. We're the second largest furniture bank actually in the country. 87% of all of our families make less than $18,000 per year. Through the Furniture Bank, we really help those that don't have any furniture. What we do, we actually help the average family take about 15 pieces of furniture, and we deliver it that very day to their home. The furniture and delivery is valued at over $1,300, so whenever a family comes through our services, they get on average about $1,300 in furniture and services that helps them stabilize their home situation. We operate based on 10,000 acts of kindness. I mean, we're blessed to have over 7,000 furniture donors that donate over 60,000 pieces of furniture to us each year. We have 2,000 volunteers that come in and help us build over 5,000 pieces of furniture because we never get enough tables and chairs and dressers. And then we have over 800 financial donors that help us raise about $1.3 million to operate. In addition, this last year, we have started 2 social enterprises, which are businesses that we have started to try to generate a profit or a surplus with those enterprises. And we are using that surplus to actually support the mission and be able to serve more families. We work with over 75 partner agencies. We really don't have a staff to screen individuals, so we accept those from our partner organizations and faith-based organizations. And so if you're an organization that has a family that needs this service, we take it at your word that this family does need it, and we will serve them. So we are very fortunate to have such great partners in our community and to be such a collaborative organization. The challenge we're seeing right now, well, on average, I do want to say that we serve 18 families every day, and we deliver furniture to them the very same day. So today I know we had 20 families, and they all got their furniture before the end of the day. So we really try to impact that poverty and make that home as safe and secure as possible. The challenge we've seen is that in the homeless system, because of the demand and some of the challenges, back in 2015, we were serving 90 to 100 homeless families and individuals every month. Because of some of the financial challenges right now, we're only averaging serving between 30 and 40 a month. And we know the need is greater, and so we are thankful for this opportunity from the city to actually serve some additional families. And with this grant, we'll be able to serve an additional 40 families, which is really great for us. And so we thank you for this opportunity. We appreciate the partnership with the city and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Steve, for certainly coming down, and really do appreciate the work that you're doing in terms of even the social enterprise to try to bring more resources in to be able to serve more families. I think something that you said is really important for the viewing and listening audience, that you're serving 3,900 families each year, providing up to 15 pieces of furniture for these families, these homeless families, but 10,000 individuals. But I think most importantly is that we were just having conversations in the chambers tonight about, obviously from the shelter board was here, and then Jeff was here, and of course Stephanie's been talking a little bit about her role in the eviction. But certainly if an individual is going into the shelter, and I think this is why this funding is so important, is that they're going into the shelter, and we just heard that between, they have between 20 and 60 days, 20 and 26 days to have their own place. So just think about it. So individuals who are homeless don't have furniture.
That's right.
So if they're going to go into their own apartment, and my understanding is certainly from the shelter board, they used to use some of their funds to help provide, to be able to have funds through the furniture bank to support individuals going into those apartments. And so because they're not funding that, so now you have this issue that individuals who are going to go into one of these apartments or wherever they're going, mostly apartments, so those individuals would go to an apartment without having, if we didn't give these funds, they wouldn't have any furniture. So that's why you're seeing fewer people that you mentioned. You used to see maybe up to 90 people, homeless people or so, coming to the furniture bank. That's right. Because they had resources to support that. And now either one or two things would happen. Either they have to get, if they're going to get furniture, either another resource has to help be supportive of your organization for them to get it, or how do you go from being homeless and into an apartment and not have anything? So these funds are helping that person, these individuals, to be able to have furniture to take care of themselves, just the basics.
That's right.
Beds, tables, things to eat at, so that those families could begin, because part of having a bed and a table to eat at is stabilizing that family. And who wants to go into an
Absolutely.
apartment and have nothing there? So
And
that's what
how
these
is it-
funds are all about.
It is really a dilemma in our community. I mean, we have thousands of kids in our community every day, every night, sleeping on the floor. When you think about a kitchen table, those are things that we take for granted every day, but everybody does not. And when you just think about everything that happens around a kitchen table. I mean, you do homework, you eat meals, you play games, you have critical conversations. These are things that lots of families aren't getting the opportunity, and that furniture and things like that help make a house a home. And it's where we go when we feel threatened. Where do we feel safe? It's in our home. And what we try to do is make that house a home. And furniture is very much a part of that.
So thank you. This is for, we're at the part of our funding year where some of our resources are becoming limited, but certainly understand the value of the work that you're doing. And so this is for $10,000. And again, so once that person, just want to make sure viewing and listening audience also understand why this is so important, because you now have this person who hopefully through the work at the shelter board they have a place, and hopefully they have a job. And so if you have a job, you certainly want to you want to have those basic needs all met so that person can go to work and contribute in the best way possible. And part of that is having a bed to sleep on, to get a good night's rest, to be able to get up and to go to work and to eat your meal. So that's why this is so important. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for thinking outside the box on your social enterprise, and look forward to having this legislation before my council members. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next ordinance for your consideration this evening is ordinance 1926-2017, and while I'm describing it, I would invite Krista Edwards, who serves as the Director of Social Services for Salvation Army, to come to the podium. This ordinance is to allocate $15,000 to the Salvation Army in support of their Emergency Disaster Service Response Program, which is to support the emergency needs of individuals due to disasters and/or crises.
Good evening, how are you?
Wonderful. Good evening.
Good. So as she said, I am here to represent the Salvation Army and our Emergency Disaster Services Program. And what we are doing is we're working with low-income families within Columbus who have unfortunately experienced some type of a personal disaster. Most of them have had house fires. So they've lost their home and their belongings to their fire. So we are working with them to return them to their pre-disaster status, either through getting them emergency food, working with a partnership with the Furniture Bank of Central Ohio to give them furniture to replace that. We also help with a delivery cost to get their items to their home. If rent or utility assistance, if they completely lost their current home and they need to reestablish into a new place, then we have some limited rental assistance available to get them started, or security deposits, those types of things that cost extra money to get them reestablished into a new place. Utility assistance as well. We do a lot of community resource linkage of our partners throughout the community. And then also, in addition to the individuals, is if there is a large-scale event within the city of Columbus, Franklin County, then we can help with mass feeding to the first responders or the victims of that disaster as well. So we used to have funding from the United Way of Central Ohio, and then through different changes with their priorities, we lost that funding. So we are in a gap with being able to serve those families. So they would still be served, but they'd get thrown into the masses of all of our other material assistance programs that help with those same items. But with this funding, we're able to identify those families with fire and then kind of bump them up because of that emergency situation to help with all those items that I listed.
So thank you for coming down, and just appreciate the work of the Salvation Army. And this legislation is for $15,000 to provide for emergency disaster support services for individuals in our community who are considered low income and may not have the resources should a disaster occur to begin to get back, move back to the status in which they were. And these dollars will help to support the work, help to support them to, again, move forward and provide some of the resources that are necessary for them to be stable again. So I appreciate what you've been doing, and I'm so glad that we were able to have $15,000 to support your efforts, and look forward to my council colleagues hearing this legislation either next, I think Monday, I think it's going to be on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're excited to have a little bit to be able to provide back to the community. So
Thank you.
That's very helpful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next ordinance for your consideration is ordinance 1939-2017. And while I describe it, I'd like to invite Tony Cunningham, who serves as the managing director for Priscilla, to the podium. This ordinance is to allocate $15,000 to Priscilla to support their tuition-free IT job-ready training that they provide to unemployed and underemployed individuals in Columbus. Ms. Cunningham?
Good evening.
Good evening, Councilwoman Pro Tem Tyson, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. As you know, our core goal with Priscilla is to reduce unemployment and underemployment among diverse individuals in traditionally overlooked communities. We do this by training, placing, and helping them succeed in living wage technology careers. We seek to arm people with transformative business services and life skills that result in long-term success. In 2016, 94% of our students graduated, and 61% of our graduates were placed in full-time positions with an average wage of almost $14.38 per hour. We are expecting this placement rate to increase by 80%. Our latest class graduated in December. Well, actually, our latest class just graduated. As you know, you were the speaker. And we celebrated the fact that individuals were trained and ready, had job placement opportunities coming out of training. So that was very exciting. With this funding support over the next program, 2017-2018 program year, we will enroll 130 women and men into IT support, Network Plus training. They will come out with CompTIA certifications that basically prepare them for entry to mid-level job opportunities in technology. We are predicting that 85% of our students will graduate. 85% of the graduates will obtain CompTIA A+ or Network Plus certification. 80% of our graduates will secure employment as an average wage of $14.50 an hour or above, and 75% will retain that employment for at least 1 year. We take participants through a very rigorous process that includes either a 10-week or a 15-week training where it simulates work. So they come Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we do just like work, two 15-minute breaks, an hour lunch, and we are really preparing them for the real world. We marry technical training along with soft skills training to ensure that individuals are well-rounded, individuals ready to provide value to organizations upon graduation. I'd love to share with you just one of our student stories, just so that you can understand, you and our viewing audience can understand the impact of IT training on individuals' lives. So this is a story about Roy. Roy considers himself a lifelong learner with a passion for tech. He loved computers growing up and taught himself many of the skills necessary to start an independent tech on-call business that he operated for several years. However, it was not until he received the training and certification opportunity from Priscilla that he truly felt that he was really beginning a career. He grew up in Northern Ohio, and he moved to Columbus in 2000 to pursue careers that offered financial stability. He was stretched thin. He worked 2 part-time jobs in wine and tech sales, and in an effort to follow his passion, he decided to quit his job as a wine salesman, but was laid off from the tech company just 1 month after being employed. In a period of financial uncertainty, Roy moved back in with his parents and struggled to find a path forward. One morning, he opened a Craigslist ad. We advertise in all different ways. So he opened a Craigslist ad advertising free IT training and opportunities to pursue an A+ certification. Reflecting back, he remarked, "I was at a very low point. I quit one job and got fired from another. If I wanted things to get better, Perscolis was my big shot. It was the most affordable option, the most comprehensive option, and it was the best opportunity to get the experience and certification I needed to not let those circumstances happen again. He worked hard to receive his A+ certification, but he did not stop there. He was motivated by an internal drive to succeed and a love for technology. He committed to another 8 weeks of studying for the Network Plus exam after he got his A+, and he aced the test, and he only missed one question, which is, it's a very hard national certification test, and he accepted a job working as a technician at a help desk. He's being true to himself, and his employment is working out well for him. He then moved to a network administrator position after he went to work for a nonprofit. He started working for Alvis, which was wonderful, and he served as a network administrator, and he loved their mission of helping formerly incarcerated individuals, and so the work had double meaning for him. He said, financially, I've never made this much money, and I work for a nonprofit, and it is work that I love. Reflecting on his transformation after Perscolis, he said, it has had the most important impact on my life, both materially and psychologically. I got laid off right before I started Perscolis. Now, next week, I'm taking 2 weeks of vacation, and they're going to bring a contractor in to fill my role, which is what he did initially. I am in demand. They have to have me there or someone with my skill set. They can't get rid of me now. So that is a success story, and that's only one of many of individuals whose lives have changed as a result of going through this training and being able to access a livable wage job where they can support themselves and their families. So I thank you for your support. You guys have been a supporter of Perscolis since we started in 2012, and we truly appreciate the partnership from the City of Columbus.
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham, for certainly coming down and certainly sharing the success of Perscolis. Certainly, when you just mentioned that individuals are now making, $14.38, $14.50 an hour as, starting out, and then have the opportunity to continue to gain additional skills and getting paid even a higher wage. So we're thankful for that. I do appreciate that you said it is affordable. It's an affordable option because it's free. So exactly. It certainly is affordable, and so it's free. And again, the nonprofits that you mentioned, the nonprofit, and just want to make sure that people know that the nonprofits are not getting any of the dollars from the dollars that we could provide your organization. This is solely for your organization to be able to help these individuals get skills. The only question I'm going to ask you, or could you just quickly share some of the other companies that are also funding your program?
Absolutely, absolutely. So along with the City of Columbus, we will be able to leverage your dollars. We have strong support with JPMorgan Chase, the United Way of Central Ohio. We have the Columbus Foundation, who is a very strong supporter of ours. And as well, we have a social enterprise that's run out of our New York office that provides revenue to all of our sites, where we take aged out computer equipment and refurbish it and resell it. So we have a funding mix. We also have a grant from the Franklin County Department of Economic Development, a People Works grant that allows us to support individuals, low-income individuals across Franklin County who are seeking training and going into employment.
Thank you. Well, thank you for certainly coming down and sharing the success. And I would say that when having the opportunity to come to, different graduation services, that just the diversity of the individuals that are within your program, women, new Americans, immigrants, just the diversity of the individuals who are gaining these skills and moving themselves and their families forward is something that, of course, we appreciate in Columbus, because we want to continue, we certainly value everyone that's here, and we're an open and smart city, and just really appreciate that you're making sure that your individuals that you're giving these opportunities to are diverse. And so thank you for your leadership, and look forward to hearing more success for the individuals that have the opportunity to go through your programs. And they're certainly not easy programs to get through, and just appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this is for $15,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the last ordinance we have for your consideration this evening is 1940-2017. And while I'm describing it, I would like to invite Damian Hardy to the podium. Damian serves as the Director of Government Affairs for the Ohio Minority Supplier Diversity Council. This ordinance is to allocate $25,000 to the council in support of their new Minority Business Enterprise Success Institute, and I will let Damian describe the program.
Good evening, Damian. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson. Thank you for allowing me to give testimony this evening for support for funding for the OSU/OMSDC Executive Education Program. My name again is Damian Hardy. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council. I come here today on behalf of Council President Jackie Neal, who is currently out of state for a national meeting. OMSDC certifies, develops, and connects MBEs of all sizes and all industries to our corporate members in Ohio. We provide year-round training, development, and networking opportunities to connect MBEs to corporate supplier diversity programs in public and private sectors. The City of Columbus and the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council have partnered in the past for the Minority Business Enterprise Academy. The MBE Academy was a training and development program that strengthens MBE business development and day-to-day operations of newly certified and eligible non-certified MBEs. The MBE Academy program gives basic core training and development for MBEs new to their industries or normally in business less than 5 years. Some of the results of the MBE Academy were businesses noticed an increase in their revenue, better understanding of their business, as well as 58 new jobs generated in the past 2 years. The council and its partners noticed a need to develop an MBE program that not just new to MBEs, but could use more extensive training and development for the MBEs to take them to the next level. More of a middle tier, businesses that have been in business 5 to 12 years. The OSU OMSDC Executive Education Program does just that. This program was developed to build upon the MBE Academy. This new pilot program builds upon the key learnings of the MBE Academy and will provide training and development through a newly developed OSU Fisher College of Business curriculum that highlights operational excellence and success. This focus on operational excellence and success makes this program unique in the minority business entrepreneur education and development space when compared to other national programs. This education program will provide seminars, mentoring, coaching, and a strategic project with an MBA student from the OSU Fisher College of Business. This one Saturday a month, 9 to 10-week program, which will be held at the Ohio State University Fisher College of Business. Dr. James Hill of the Ohio State University will manage the process of matching MBEs to their mentors and coaches, as well as matching MBA students. The goal of this program is to create a new network workflow, potential increased revenues of the participating MBEs, and assist in participants in reaching the goals that were identified in their assistance with their mentors and coaches. By growing and investing in these businesses, the City of Columbus will contribute to increasing the spend and awareness of qualified MBEs with higher profile, larger businesses. It would also prepare the MBEs by responding to the articulated needs for corporations for an increase in knowledge base, skill sets, and toolkits for this new level of exposure. This creates a win-win for corporations, MBEs, and the City of Columbus, which also while enhancing a need for job creation in Columbus. The curriculum will include introduction to operational excellence, leading operational excellence, stabilizing operations, creating and managing the flow of your business, managing change and innovation, managing the extended supply chain, data analytics for operational excellence, and mastering talent planning. OMSDC will raise at least $25,000 to match the suggested $25,000 pending from the city. That will cover for 5 Columbus MBEs. With funding from the City of Columbus, this program has the potential to become a national recognized program. Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy, for coming down, and certainly we have in the past funded the MBE Academy, and you've shared some of the results of that, but certainly from that program we realize there are some businesses that you mentioned that are like between 5 to 12 years old that are middle tier businesses that want to receive some additional skills to help them to move forward, and I'm pleased that that the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council is working with the OSU Fisher College of Business and to help these businesses get to the next level. I think it'll be a great partnership, and as you just mentioned, that you guys are also going to be raising additional dollars to be able to support this particular program. So thank you for coming down. Look forward to the kickoff of this program. And let me ask you this question. So the individuals who may be, the companies that may be interested in becoming a part of this, how would they get involved in this program?
They can contact the council. We also have our certification committee, as well as working with Dr. James Hill, putting together a pool of possible selected MBEs that we think that may be perfect for this pilot program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. This is for $25,000. Thank you. And now we'll transition to the Finance Committee. And I think I know the Finance Committee normally goes first, but since we had a lot of guests here, I do appreciate you allowing our guests to be able to present their organizations here and the work that they're doing to help move our communities forward. So thank you for your indulgence in allowing Health and Human Services to go before you this evening. Hopefully it's been as informative for you as it has been for me to learn about these organizations in our community, and certainly the ones that are really focused on getting people jobs and to help change their overall quality of life. So again, I thank you for your indulgence here. And so with that, I'm going to transition to our City Treasurer, Debbie Clee, to give us her presentation, and then Mr. Bob McDaniel, and then last but not least, our amazing Finance Director, Joe Lombardi. So, all right, Ms. Clee, the floor is yours.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson. This evening I have one ordinance. It is 1941, 2017, and it is an ordinance which, if passed, would authorize the City Treasurer to enter into contract with Dunbar Armored Incorporated for armored car services on behalf of several city agencies. They would be the Treasurer's Office, the Municipal Court Clerk, Building and Zoning, the Recreation and Parks Department, Public Service, and the Department of Public Utilities. This is emergency legislation, and unfortunately, while we had plans to be modifying and extending a contract with the vendor that had originally won our bid, we learned on May the 30th that they would not be able to provide services under the existent contract. So as a consequence, we had a conversation with purchasing, who looked about to see whether there were any cooperative purchasing agreements. There were not. As a consequence, we did an informal bid process, asking 3 armored car services to provide quotes, and we received 2 quotes from 2 different companies, and are requesting to award a contract and authorize expenditures to Dunbar Armored. Let me see. During this, the term of the contract is going to be from August 1st through March the 31st, and our plan is to work with purchasing to go out and develop an RFP and go out to bid in order to be able to establish a universal term contract that could be used by any city agency. And I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Ms. Clee. I know that you and I met and talked about the contract for armored car services, certainly what happened with the previous organization and the need to pretty quickly find another Armored Car Agency to be able to support the work of the city. So certainly do support you and the work that you did to go out and to contact the Armored Car Services in the community, and certainly get that information, their information, into you. And you have selected Dunbar, and it's for $67,800. And I know we're asking to waive competitive bidding because of the circumstances, that we need to get this moving and, again, do the work of the city. So appreciative of the work and that you had to go through to be able to find another armored car service pretty quickly, and I thank you for that, and I'm happy to share this information with my colleagues and hopefully move forward with support. Thank you so much. And next, we will hear from the Deputy Auditor, Mr. Robert McDaniel.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson. Tonight I have two ordinances to bring before you. The first is Ordinance 1914-2017. This ordinance will authorize the City Auditor to enter into an agreement along with the Auditor of the State of Ohio to engage Plant Moran for professional auditing services for the city for 2017. This will authorize the expenditure of up to $401,070 from the general fund. Plant Moran was selected through a competitive bidding process back in August of 2012 for a period of 5 years. It was recommended by the Auditor of State to a 1-year extension with Plant Moran. Funds are currently available in the general fund for this purpose. If you have any other further questions, more than glad to answer.
No, I do not. Again, you mentioned up to $401,000 and a 1-year extension, and the next year we'll be going out to bid for, working with the, I guess, state auditor for a new auditing organization, possibly.
Yeah, I can't answer what the future will bring. I'm guessing there will be a discussion there with the Auditor of State.
Right.
Yes. The second ordinance does not have an ordinance number yet. This is a little proactive based on the timing. It has not been entered into Legistar yet. This ordinance will also be for professional auditing services for the various sub-grantee audits that we do every year. This current bid will be open on July 13th at the 5 p.m. In order to meet all the deadlines for council before the August recess, I felt it important to bring this before you now. After the bid is opened, I will more than gladly tell you who the bidder is and the amount of audits and the funding. If I can answer any other further questions, more than glad to.
No, thank you for bringing it to our attention. And is it in process? No, it's not in process yet because we don't know who's going to get it yet. But right. As soon as, okay. All right. So thanks for bringing it to our attention, and we will look forward to that legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And so our final presenter this evening is, again, the Finance Director, Joe Lombardi.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Tyson. This evening, the Finance Department has 11 ordinances, plus we have a few ordinances that are associated with the bond sale. We'll hit those at the very end. First ordinance we have for your consideration is 1570-2017, and this is to enter into a modification to renew an existing contract with API Security Services for security services at the Fleet Maintenance Facility in the amount of $80,000. We have contracted with API for these services. This is the third and final renewal as part of the contract, and so we are just renewing it for that final year, and probably will be seeking a rebid on that contract at a later date.
Thank you.
The next ordinance is 1737-2017, and this is to enter into a contract with for automotive preventative maintenance with Valvoline LLC, and to authorize the expenditure of $1 to establish the contract. This contract is used primarily by our Fleet Management Division. These are for oil changes and minor repairs at Valvoline. The estimated total expenditure is $100,000 off of this contract.
Thank you.
The next ordinance is 1751, 2017, and essentially this ordinance gets rid of some deed restrictions. This parcel was part of the 1960s Denison Urban Renewal Project. As a requirement of the terms of that federal grant project, a deed restriction was placed on this parcel requiring that during the term of the project, the parcel must only be used as a side yard and could not be sold as a separate parcel. The terms of that renewal program have been met, and this ordinance simply releases that deed restriction and allows this parcel to be sold as a separate lot for construction of a new home. The next ordinance is ordinance 1785, 2017. This is an annual ordinance that we do right before the bond sales. This is to amend the 2017 capital improvement budget to be in line with the upcoming bond sale. Basically, as you know, during the year, we amend the capital budget until such time as we have a bond sale. And so this is to align all those different amendments that we did with the bond sale, and to, if we reallocated funds from one project to another, it's to align all that again with the bond sale amount.
And Director, when do we expect the bond sale to take place?
In speaking with Mr. Dorian, we're looking at late fall, potentially in October, is what our indication have been so far in speaking with Mr. Dorian.
Okay. I think because the bonding companies are coming in September, is that right?
They're coming in September, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The next ordinance up for consideration is 1798, 2017, and this is to authorize the modification of a UTC for the option to purchase waste removal services, both hazardous and non-hazardous, with Chemtron, Inc., and to promote additional services and associated costs to the current contract. Essentially what happened here was our original specification for this contract did not foresee the amount of hazardous and non-hazardous waste that is produced by the city of Columbus. For example, broken thermometers, aerosol cans, certain classes of batteries. It's just such a wide variety of what is now considered a hazardous or non-hazardous waste that the specifications at the time when we did the contract did not anticipate these type of things to be noted as hazardous or non-hazardous. So what we want to do here is we want to modify the contract to allow the company to pick up those wastes that aren't on the contract at this time. We did speak with the purchasing office, and what we will be doing in the next rebid is going around to all the departments and asking again, what type of hazardous and non-hazardous waste do you have so that we can ensure that these type of things are beyond the next contract.
Director, it says that, no funding is required to modify the contract, the option contract, and each agency must set aside their own funding for their estimated expenditures.
That's correct.
So whatever they need to have disposed of, they will have to just pay for that.
Yes, they'll establish their own purchase order against this contract. So,
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next ordinance up for consideration is 1816, 2017, and this is to enter into a universal term contract for the option to purchase flocculator tank and sedimentation basin shaft bearings with Applied Industrial Technologies in the amount of $1. The total estimated annual expenditure of this contract is $100,000. And the largest user and the sole user of this is the Division of Water. This equipment is used at the Hapcremene and Dublin Road Water Plant for crews to perform maintenance repairs on flocculator tanks and sedimentation basins. That's a mouthful. The next ordinance is 1819, 2017, and this is to enter into a contract for the option to purchase refuse collection containers with Rarig Pacific Company and to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code and to authorize the expenditure of $1 to establish this contract. The purchasing office advertised and solicited competitive bids. We received 4 bids, but one bidder offered a leasing program, which we could not accept. The lowest bidder did not meet certain specifications, specifically on the stamped serial number and the sizing. And 2 bidders exceeded the weight limits of the 65-gallon containers. So the Division of Refuse has asked the purchasing office to award those items to the second lowest bidder and most responsive bidder, and it is recommended that the city waive the competitive biddings to allow that award to happen. We will not be awarding items 3, 5, and 6, as those are parts for containers that are already in our inventory that are from another manufacturer, so no one could bid on those items when we did this bid, so we'll have to do a separate bid for those repair parts. So we're just asking your consideration for this. And these are the refuse containers and the parts to go with it as well.
So the new containers and the parts?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and the old containers, we have to get the parts from another, from the manufacturer of those?
That is correct, yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
perfect, thank you.
The next ordinance is
And
1830.
the expenditure is how much for this?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I was looking at that and I don't see it, but I can get back to your office with that
well,
number.
let's
I
see.
did not see it as I was reading.
375,000.
Oh, there it is. It's hidden in there. 375. I was on vacation. It's going to take me a while to get back in the groove. The next ordinance is 1834, 2017, and this is to enter into a contract on behalf of the Office of Construction Management with Decker Construction for the police station mid-watch and fire station number 25 parking lot expansion at 743 West 3rd Avenue. This project will expand the existing parking lot at the police substation and fire station number 25 that's located on West 3rd Avenue. This will include additional parking spaces that were created, will help alleviate the shortage of parking, especially during the shift changes. This includes excavation, stone subbase, asphalt paving, stripping, and sidewalk in that area. And the cost is $107,076.59.
So this is going to allow enough parking so that, especially during shift changes,
Yes.
that the police would be able, that are still on duty, to have their cars there.
That's correct.
And then if a shift change, and certainly there's our police officers are still working,
That's correct.
that the officers who are coming to work have an opportunity to still be able to find parking so that they can begin to come in and get ready for their shift.
That's
Is that
correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. In your packet, we included 1840, 2017. However, we are not ready to speak on this one as of yet. So this will probably, at the 25th meeting, we will speak on that. Not meeting, but the hearing on the 25th. So I still had some outstanding questions that hadn't been answered at the time of this hearing. So I just felt it would be better to postpone that one until the 25th. The next ordinance is 1864, 2017, and this is to enter into a universal term contract for the option to purchase flocculator paddle replacement parts with Motion Industries and to authorize the expenditure of $1 to enter into that contract. The total estimated value of this contract annually is $150,000, and the Division of Water is the sole user. Just like the other UTC for water, these paddles are used in flocculators that mix chemicals with our water treatment process, and it's also for parts for those paddles.
Thank you.
The next ordinance is 1895, 2017, and this is to enter into a contract on behalf of Fleet Management to enter in with B&B Sealing LLC, doing business as DuraSeal for pavement coating and sealing at the Fleet Management Facility, in the total expenditure of $62,200. This will allow us to do coating and sealing at our fleet management facility located at 4211 Groves Road. That area is in need of sealing, as anybody who has asphalt driveways knows, that every so often you have to seal it and redo it. So that's what this contract will do.
And so the $62,600 is for, I mean, you mentioned for the asphalt sealing and coating. Is this just always done on an as-needed basis, like at your home?
Yes, as needed. As we go out and see and assess the parking lots throughout the city, we saw the one at Fleet needed to be done. So the next ordinance is 1896, 2017. This is to enter into a universal term contract for the option to purchase Hitachi Maxco sludge collector parts with bearing distributors and to authorize the expenditure of $1 to establish this contract. The total estimated annual expenditure is $40,000. The Division of Sewers and Drains is the sole user. In this contract, the bearing distributors, we asked everybody to bid on two manufacturers, Allied Lock or Hitachi, and the recommendation would be made based on the lowest price of the manufacturer. So the lowest price on this particular one was the Hitachi as opposed to the Allied Lock. So we are entering into the contract with bearing distributors just for the Hitachi parts. We could have used either one of those manufacturers, but we based it on the lowest cost of which manufacturer.
Thank you.
I think some of these have come along, and I didn't know they were here. I had a little more than I thought. I'm sorry about that. It's like they reproduced or something. So ordinance number 1905, 2017. And this is to enter into two universal term contracts for the option to purchase office supplies, accessories, and papers with Bulldog Office Products and Staples Business Advantage. And this is to authorize $2 to establish those contracts and to waive the relative provisions of city code related to competitive bidding. Essentially, what we awarded two contracts for all the liked items in the office supplies. This is to help us again with our catalog that we have. Bulldog Office Products is an FBE company, and they will be awarded categories 1 and 3 along with catalogs and discounts. And Staples will also be awarded categories 1 through 3 along with their catalog and discounts. So we thought it was very important to do multiple awards on this UTC. Office supplies are used throughout the city. The annual expenditure is $780,000, and all city agencies will use this, and we thought as a Department of Finance that it would benefit and maybe have some savings to our departments if we would award more than one contract. And the reason why we're waiving is because currently the code does not allow us to award multiple items, as you know.
Thank you. So, Director, I'm pleased that, of course, we're going to award two organizations, which is great, for the $780,000. And just want to note that, Bulldog is a female business enterprise, as you mentioned, and that just really pleased that that the administration is really working to utilize small minority and female business enterprises. As we just mentioned, the work of the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council, trying to ensure and providing those dollars to ensure that businesses that are mid-sized or so, or those middle-tier businesses have an opportunity to be able to grow. And so contracts like this certainly help the female minority businesses to be able to move forward. Even if they got half of the people who use for half of that is a significant amount of money for a business. So just appreciate the work that's going on in the administration.
You're welcome.
In our community.
You're welcome. And as you know, the e-catalog system that we have utilized over the last couple of years is really allowing competition within companies as well, because it's almost like an Amazon.com type of shopping. When we call up a pencil, for example, it's going to show what Bulldog is charging and also what Staples is charging at that moment. So, there's potential of savings for us, yes.
It is. Competition is, competitive bidding competitive purchasing is great, and we'll be able to get the very best price for the work that we do at the city. So thank you.
You're welcome. The next ordinance is 1928, 2017, and this is to enter into a contract on behalf of the Office of Construction Management with Aggressive Mechanical for renovations of the men's shower at the Fire Training Academy located at 3639 Parsons Avenue, and to authorize the expenditure of $184,480 from the Safety Voted Bond Fund. This legislation will allow us to upgrade the men's locker room showers at the training academy, the Fire Training Academy. Over time, there's been a lot of waterproof membranes that are located under the showers that have just deteriorated, and really it became costly to continue to try to Band-Aid that. So we felt it was in the best interest of the Fire Academy that we would just renovate those showers for them. So, and that cost again will be $184,480, and we are utilizing the voted bond money for the Department of Safety.
Thank you.
And lastly, I won't read them all, but there's several ordinances that will be coming for consideration, 1786 through 1795, 2017. And this will be our bond sale related ordinances for all of our departments, approximately $313 million worth of ordinances that will be coming up for consideration. This includes safety, recreation and parks, sanitary sewer, public service, and recreation and parks. So these are part of our annual bond sales that we do. This is just each division will need its separate ordinance for that to be voted on by council. And that is it for this evening.
Thank you. And either this will be on the 17th or the 21st for the bond sale?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. All right, so I also want to just give you some praise, you and Mr. Dorian, for your ongoing guidance, that we had within our CIB process. This is part of that. And note that this will be Mr. Dorian's last probably bond sale of his tenure here at the City of Columbus, and that certainly he has saved the city countless millions of dollars through his expertise and his astute leadership. And so I'll certainly say that as we get ready to pass this, but just really do appreciate his leadership in our city.
He does a great job. I learn something from him every moment I talk to him.
I know.
It's wonderful.
You and we spend a lot of time with him, and every single time, you're right. It's just a great learning opportunity. So, well, thank you, and again, I do appreciate again your indulgence and being the last presenter. So, thank you so much, Director. I know. So I hope this evening's hearing has provided insight into programs and community initiatives from Columbus Public Health and the Development Department, as well as finance-related legislation that's necessary to support our ongoing city operations. As residents, these hearings are an opportunity for you to learn and become engaged in issues that were presented. I would like to thank this evening's presenters from Columbus Public Health, Roger Cloran, Assistant Health Commissioner, from the Department of Development, Hannah R. Jones, Deputy Director of Community Development, from the Treasurer's Office, Debbie Clee, the Treasurer, from the City Auditor's Office, Robert McDaniel, from the Deputy Auditor, and the Finance and Management, Joe Lombardi, the Director, and City Council's Legislative Research Office, especially Michael Kessler, who heads our Legislative Research Office. And I want to also thank Matt Erickson, who staffs the Finance Committee, Alexis Pennell, who staffs the Health and Human Services Committee, Nancy Pryor-Sully, who was a part of our City Council's Community Engagement Team, my staff, Nicole Harper and Carl Williams, the hardworking team of CTV who make these hearings possible, and finally, the residents of Columbus who make our city the best place to live, work, and to raise a family. This hearing is now adjourned. Thank you so much.